Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to historic Joint Base Myer-Henderson Hall and today's farewell tribute and retirement ceremony in honor of the Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral Christopher W. Grady. Before today's ceremony begins, the United States Navy Band will present pre-ceremonial music. Please silence all cell phones and other electronic devices at this time. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party and arrival honors, and remain standing for the invocation. Post the side boys. Secretary of War arriving. Deputy Secretary of War arriving. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff arriving. Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, arriving. Ladies and gentlemen, Reverend Robert Dowd, the 18th President of the University of Notre Dame.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we thank you for gathering us together as we celebrate Admiral Christopher Grady's many years of exemplary service to our country and the United States Navy. From Newport, Rhode Island, inspired by the example of his parents and a loving family, Admiral Grady answered the call to a path of service for the greater good. From the University of Notre Dame's NROTC program to commanding at sea, he was asked to assume ever-increasing responsibilities and duties at sea and on shore, and this path culminated in service as Vice Chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. We thank you, O God, for the servant leadership he has shown throughout his career and for the thoughtful and selfless way he has carried out his duties on behalf of us all. In our gathering here today, may we be open to the ways you mean to inspire us to live lives of service. Help us all to be grateful for the hard-won freedoms we enjoy. May we always exercise such freedoms responsibly in service of others, especially those in most need. We make this prayer in your great name. Amen.
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the advancing of the colors and remain standing for the singing of the United States National Anthem by the United States Navy Band Sea Chanters.
Colors, power, march! Detachment, present, arms!
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Detachment, order, arms! Order, arms! Post the colors, step right, face.
Please be seated.
Step left, face.
Post to the side, boys. Ladies and gentlemen, General Dan Kane, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to an incredible day. Vice, you look as good 40 feet tall as you think you do in that picture. What a day to come here together to celebrate an extraordinary sailor, commander, admiral, but most of all, an extraordinary human and man, Admiral Chris Grady, and the very remarkable family remarkable family who stood next to you during this chapter of your service. Chris, it's a privilege to welcome not only you, but your favorite people in the world, Christine, Nick, who we're thinking about, Paul, Luke, Danielle, Nolan, and Marie. And though they're not with us right now, all of us that know you and love you know that you wish Rudy, Snacks, and Tully, your animals, were here with you as well, and they would probably be sitting right at your feet. I want to thank our distinguished guests today, our Secretary of War, the Honorable Pete Hegseth, and our Deputy Secretary of War, the Honorable Steve Feinberg. Your presence highlights the importance and the profound respect that we all have for not just Chris, but also the role that he fills as a vice chairman. I'm also honored to recognize and welcome former chairman, vice chairman, current service chiefs, combatant commanders, former joint chiefs, vice chiefs of defense from Canada, the UK, France, other general and flag officers, but especially our guests today, who shaped your journey for so long, starting with the Notre Dame President, Reverend Robert Dowd, Vice President, Mrs. Ann Firth, President Emeritus, Father John Jenkins, Auburn University President, Dr. Christopher Roberts, and Catholic University President, Dr. Peter Kirkpatrick. And a round of applause, please, for our guests. And finally, I want to recognize the hundreds of members of our Joint Forces senior leaders and enlisted senior leaders, all of you who know just how special Chris is. Your presence today speaks volumes for the man we honor. And so how do you start, Chris, a retirement ceremony for the Navy's Old Salt? It's a tough task. Admiral Chris Grady is not just the longest-serving surface warfare officer. He's a towering presence in every sense of the word, and not just because of his height, but for the past 141 years, that's right, 141 years, 135 days, 1 hour, and 13 minutes, he's commanded ships, led fleets, represented the Joint Force at countless White House meetings, chaired joint requirements over council meetings, gone to DMAGs, and held our joint force steady. But what set you apart, Chris, is not just the things that you've done, my friend, but truly and more importantly, how you've done them, how you've walked through these chapters, especially this last one. Always with passion, always with presence, and always with heart. You're a kind of man who walks into a room and fills it not by demanding attention, but by inspiring all of us to be the leader that you are. A proud son of Notre Dame, you've carried the values of faith, discipline, and drive into every watch you've stood and every sailor who's been lucky enough to serve with you. You've argued fiercely when it mattered, cheered loudly for those you believed in, and gave all of yourself every single day for this country, for our Navy, for the Joint Force, and for the people that you've served. Your true legacy, my friend, is not written in battle orders or command titles, though there's a lot of those. Your real legacy is in all of those people around this great forum whose lives you've touched. The laughter you've brought to a wardroom or my office after a hard day, the encouragement you've given a young officer unsure of what to do, and the way you've always made everyone who spends time around you feel like they are the most important person in the world at that moment. You really, really have. But to understand you, we have to go back to where you came from, to Newport, as the Reverend said, as Father said, where this towering but gracious young man with slightly more hair dreamed of the sea. At 10 years old, your dad was the XO of a destroyer, and you spent a magical night underway with your father. Can you just for a second imagine what that must have been like for a 10-year-old Chris Grady to look up at this giant of a man who was at sea as an XO and see and feel what your calling was? There is no doubt that that exact moment in time and the examples of your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather, all who wore the same cloth that you do right now of Navy or Marine service, set you on the chart, set you on the course and the speed that you're on now. You came to Notre Dame, unlike many of us who don't know what we want to do. You came to Notre Dame knowing that you were going to take the road less traveled, to serve something greater than yourself, to join the world's finest Navy, to shoulder the demands of being an American citizen by serving. Notre Dame did far more than educate you. It forged you, to use a term that you use so often. It forged you. At your first Mass of the Holy Spirit, Chris, you began to learn the lessons of faith, community, and service, and recognizing potential in others, often long before they saw it in themselves. Father Mark Porman, your dorm rector, quietly made sure you would not drown under the weight of academics, NROTC, and varsity fencing. Coach Mike DeCiso naming you the captain of the fencing team long before you thought you were ready, but seeing in you the qualities that we still see today at scale: courage under pressure, leadership, love, tenacity, grit, determination, and an unwavering sense of humor 24/7, 365. But those of us that know you and love you understand what your real anchor is, and it's the lady sitting behind you and your kids. Christine, you've spent 37 years being the anchor of that family, and you are, without a doubt, his source of strength. You are not just an admiral's wife, you were a commander's wife, and you carried with that all of the pressure and stress associated with that. And you've always, always supported that command team. You've built networks around the world for military spouses, comforted families through deployments, lived the motto that family readiness really does equal operational readiness. Organizations have been so lucky to have you a part of it, like Naval Services Family Line, the USO, of course, Military Family Advisory Network, Fisher House, Easter Seals. The list just goes on, because where you saw a chance to serve, you moved towards that opportunity every single time. And you did so while still being the commissioner of your family's fantasy football league. Somehow, this is a true testament for who you are, somehow still managing to stay married while Chris is a Red Sox fan and you are a Yankees fan. So Christine, on behalf of this joint force, we struggle for the words. We owe you a debt of gratitude. You were joined on this journey, Chris, with Nick, Luke, and Paul. Gentlemen, your father's pride simply knows no bounds. Each of you carries the same fire that he has in a different way. Nick, Chris had the honor of commissioning you in front of the grotto at Notre Dame, and I hope you're listening, making you the 5th generation of naval officers to serve in your family. 5 generations. Just let that sink in for a minute about what that means for the Grady family. Though your time in uniform was cut short, your service has never stopped. You lead with distinction at the State Department alongside Danielle and with your now son Nolan, and you've given your dad yet another reason to beam with pride. When I asked Chris what he's going to do tomorrow, he said, "I don't know, but I'm going to get up really early because my grandson's an early riser, so we know what you will do tomorrow." Luke, your work shaping young athletes at Notre Dame shows the same passion that Chris brought to every single wardroom. You inspire others through your leadership, your quiet courage, your discipline, and care. And Paul, in telling stories with excellence, you reflect the very skills your dad has mastered, the art of making sure that every voice mattered with a beautiful sea story and every story's honored. Guys, your resilience through multiple relocations, deployments, the absences does not go unnoticed by all of us in this room today. Your own grit, determination, and love of our country is proof that your dad and your mom's focus has always been, most importantly, at home. And as I mentioned earlier, this little guy running around is now the next generation of naval officers, probably. And the only title that will matter at midnight tonight is that of Granddad versus Old Salt or Admiral. We also honor Chris's parents, Roger and Patricia. Roger, like his son, served in the Navy. And Chris, as I mentioned, one of your most cherished moments was going to sea with your father. It's incredible. Chris, your parents are with us today. There's no doubt about it that they're looking down at you, beaming with the pride that we all feel. Your sister, Deborah, is here. Your mother-in-law, Marie, thank you for all the love and support that you've poured into Chris. Your strength has always been rooted in your family, and that will continue long after tonight when you hang up this uniform and you graduate into the next chapter. For the past 42 years, you've poured every ounce of yourself into this Navy and our country. You've fired nearly every weapon in our naval arsenal. You've commanded fleets across the globe. You've trained future generations to fight and win our nation's war, while always being the steady hand, the voice of reason, and the spark of passion that's carried us through some turbulent times over these 42 years. Whether it be on the USS Mooseburger, and boy, I sure hope I said that right, where some of your shipmates are here today, to including your first Commodore, you set the tone early in discipline, exacting precision, and leadership. And you carried that through the Princeton, the Ardent, the Chief, earning combat readiness awards, always moving towards the fight, always taking your ship and sailing her into harm's way. In places like the Arabian Gulf during Operation Desert Fox, where you were alone and unafraid pressed into hostile waters, far beyond probably where you were supposed to do your job and execute your mission. Your trajectory then carried you to the Cole at an incredibly important time for her first deployment after that devastating terrorist attack that claimed the lives of 17 of our beloved sailors who we remember today. You bore that first voyage after that attack with the quiet dignity required to bring that crew back to sea with strength that inspired not only the Cole, but frankly our nation. And then, of course, there's the time at sea when people stole your Notre Dame football helmet. and it moved around. Those of us that know you so well know how important that piece of gear is and how it moved around the ship. The ensigns and the JOPA would not give it back to you. You threatened death. Suddenly there was liberty at risk, and suddenly the helmet reappeared, thankfully. But perhaps one of the most interesting things that those of us that know you and love you know, but many do not, is your hidden talent of origami. Precision, focus, relentless presence in that moment to create incredible art for all of us that have been lucky enough to be the recipients of something like that. For 42 years, that same precision, that same focus, that same dedication you've brought to our United States Navy for 42 years. You've turned the ordinary into extraordinary over and over and over again. And sometimes it was a bold move leading the joint force. Sometimes it was a one-on-one gesture with somebody who needed help. Sometimes it was a perfectly timed movie quote at the height of tension or a moment, or just a simple orange-inked note from you to somebody else. Chris, you and your family for 42 years have always answered this simple question with clarity: whom shall I send and whom will go for us? And you and your family, my friend, have always answered, send me. You've never hesitated. You've carried the torch of service nonstop, at great cost to yourself. You were the steady hand during storms, the voice of conviction and uncertainty, and the leader who made others better. Your name will, and you will reject this, but in our hearts, your name will forever be spoken alongside the great titans of the sea, like Nimitz, Halsey, Burke. But your true legacy rests not in the history books that will be written as you graduate. It'll be in the lives that you impacted, the sailors that you influenced, the members of the joint force whose lives you made better over these many, many years. As President Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt, once said, quote, "Far and away the best prize that life offers is the chance to work hard and do work worth doing." And I'll add, with those worth doing it with. You've done that every single time. Your legacy is not ending. It won't for a long, long, long time as our 12th Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs. And we will continue to carry on using you as the gift of a perfect example. Fair winds and following seas, my friend. And for a man with unlimited movie quotes in his head, I want all of you to imagine for a second Chris, who's much taller than me, standing in front of us. We're staring at each other in flight suits. And to quote the worst movie of all time, I say again, the worst movie of all time, Chris, I look at Chris and I say, Chris, you can be my wingman anytime. And he looks down at me and says, no, you can be mine. And that would be an incredible, incredible honor to be your wingman. And I have had the incredible honor of being your wingman along with others in the building here. May you enjoy a house of laughter, 5-course meals over and over again, the love of family and friends. Your watch in this chapter may be complete, but the course you've set will continue on for generations. We are so much better for having had you as our vice chairman. Congratulations on your graduation. God bless, my friend and brother. And now it is my distinct honor to introduce our nation's Deputy Secretary of War, the Honorable Steve Feinberg.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wow. I'm not a very good public speaker, unlike you, so I'm probably going to super disappoint, but I'll do my best. And the secretary's coming after me, and he's even better. But I want to thank everybody here today, all the people who've served this country so great in the past and the present, and all their families. It's a real honor for me to be able to speak here and have the chance to, express my my views and my partnership in my job with Admiral Grady. I mean, he's been amazing. Incredibly fortunate to have the chance to work with him. As you know, the vice chairman is involved in many of the daily operational matters of the Joint Staff and our services, and and as such, it was my job as deputy to work closely with him on programs, budget, you name it. I learned a tremendous amount from him and from his guidance and quite frankly, sometimes his great patience with yours truly. And I'm not unable to do something stupid, which I regularly do. And the vice, which is fantastic in helping me through it, advice and guidance. His current job is a really tough job. He has to sit over all the different services and COVCOMs and other interest groups who have their needs and things that they want, and try to come up with a plan with a limited budget and with a lot of difficult, boundaries to overcome, and come up with a plan that best serves America, while doing his best to keep all our components happy. Sometimes those decisions that he led were not very popular, but necessary and tough, especially after his great career, 42 years. Some of those decisions supported his service in the Navy, and some didn't. In the end, the way I always saw it, he never made decisions for himself. He never made it for the Joint Staff. He never made it for the Navy. He made it for the best interest of the United States. And this was an incredible example to me, and a model that I only wish I could follow in some small way. Our orders from our secretary and from our president is we need to change. We need to adapt. We need to stay ahead of probably our toughest opponent we've seen, a country that has great technical capabilities and great financial strength. So this is an enormous challenge for us. And maybe I'm overstating it, but I don't think they mean any good for the United States. I think it's a big fight for us, and we're in it. And as such, we have to do new things. We have to be bold, make some tough decisions, change the past. We have great things from the past, but also things we really need to change. And often, people with Admiral Grady's experience and long-standing career have a hard time with that. It's hard after a long career to change. But I was fortunate in that Admiral Grady was, although very deliberate, very thoughtful in change, he was a leader for it, even when those change decisions were difficult. And it's easy for the young guys to have new ideas. Some of them are not such good ideas. Some of them are good. But for the people with more experience, to embrace that and use their experience, knowledge, to help push us in that manner is what we need to stay ahead, and without which we will have, serious issues in our country. So, Admiral Grady is incredibly deliberate, always very, very prepared, incredibly knowledgeable, and actually he has a I don't know, with the Department of War, excuse me, I'm just still getting used to it, and it's a very important, thing of our technical skills, and we have all these PhDs and all these brilliant minds, but boy, I would watch Admiral Grady work with them and talk to them, and I was wondering who had a bigger brain. And he has an amazing mind and a real preparation and deliberation in how he approaches things. It's a tough job, running the day-to-day operational piece of the Joint Staff. Sometimes it's not a popular job. We desperately need, great leaders to do that, and Admiral Grady was exactly that. I greatly appreciate his experience, expertise, and everything he did, his professionalism. He was a true great example for all of us. I truly hope that we all can follow in his footsteps and continue the progress we've made so far, because we're only in the first out of the first inning. But his example is the one to follow to get us there. Admiral Grady, I wish you and your family nothing but the best in retirement. Somehow I think you'll still be serving your country in retirement, and really appreciate all the help, everything you've done. Truly special honor for me to be able to serve with you, and God bless you. With that, I would like to introduce our great Secretary of War, Secretary Hexeth. He's our inspirational leader. We're truly fortunate to be serving underneath him. It's an honor to serve under his command. And with that, Mr. Secretary, please.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Mr. Deputy, you may not like to speak, but if you know the deputy, you know he's an absolute killer. He gets in a room, he identifies the problem, finds the allies that'll drive that change, and makes it happen. Yeah, I'll clap for that. And every word he said about Admiral Grady is true. Just like Chairman King, who gave a phenomenal speech, a true testament to a titan in our building and across the Joint Force. Every single word the chairman said is true. You can come to events like this, you can hear speeches, you can hear folks extol others and talk about their career, and then you have moments where you get a chance to hear people at the height of their game talk about a peer with nothing but sheer admiration. And that's certainly, to echo the comments of the deputy, to echo the comments of the chairman, it is true, and I'm humbled and honored to be here, Mr. Vice Chairman. Thank you. And as you all, I hope, can tell, I did everything I could this morning to delay this man's retirement. Everything. I want to thank Father Dowd for your invocation, and just Deputy Feinberg again for that great introduction. It's a pleasure to see everyone here, including our Joint Chiefs, Naval Flag Officers, and in particular, Admiral Grady's family, who I had a chance to meet, including the youngest, right before this event as well. To see you again. It's always bittersweet when someone who's been so vital to our nation's military retires. It is a loss for us, truly, in every way. But it is, in many ways, a happy day for Admiral Grady as well, who will never have to sit again through another Pentagon briefing. When I started in January of this year, Admiral Grady quickly became an indispensable leader. We had more great ideas than we had people to execute them, and I often turned to him, relying heavily on his advice and assistance for critical decisions. He graciously took on the role of acting chairman of the Joint Chiefs. It was a big moment. I was a brand new secretary in uncharted waters. Didn't know the vice well, knew of him, had met him a few times. And he was an unflappable wingman, to use the chairman's terms. From the first moment that we sat together, that we looked at everything we wanted to get done and how we were going to do it, he had a choice. He could have come in and marked time, could have come in and kept his distance, could have come in and played it safe. Instead, he came in and embraced new civilian leadership and said, let's get after it. It's exactly who he is. And it brought quickly an affinity. I remember telling my wife this early on, just saying, man, that Admiral Grady, he's something else. He's a different kind of guy. He's exactly who we need in this position at this time, at every moment. And I wish everybody in here could see, I had a chance to see it, watching him brief the President of the United States in the Situation Room multiple times in that role, rolling up all the experience he's had to give wisdom to civilian leadership at critical moments. So, as a new young secretary, I want to thank you personally, man to man, American to American, leader to leader, for being right there by my side. Steady, clear, honest, hardworking. It meant the world. So thank you. And we hit the ground running. From the southern border to Guantanamo Bay, his battle-tested wisdom was critical. We've already done it. We don't need to list off his accomplishments and extensive record. We'd be here for hours. But I'll say this. We talk a lot about warrior ethos, and Admiral Grady personifies the warrior ethos. As has been mentioned, he's a fourth-generation sailor with his oldest son following in his footsteps. He has command experience at every rank from 04 to 010. It's practically unheard of. That's why, as has been mentioned, he's the Navy's old salt, more surface warfare experience than anyone in the fleet. He took over the USS Cole after it was bombed 25 years ago next month. Of course, it was Admiral Grady who was given that assignment with a steady hand in that moment. Of course. He was at the Pentagon on 9/11. He commanded Destroyer Squadron 22 during Operations Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom. In short, as he did every single day, served our nation with great honor and distinction. But of course, he's more than just a warrior. As I've mentioned, he is a leader, unflappable, incredibly prepared for whatever comes his way. Steady hand, full heart, earnest mentor. If you know him, you know he's vicious with an orange highlighter. If you've ever gotten a document back from him, you have been Agent Oranged. I still don't understand it. Maybe it's so that I can't read what he's writing when he's sitting right next to me. Always. But underneath that tough exterior, underneath that uniform, just a great human being, as was mentioned, who's also fond of quoting Animal House to his staff. He's a diehard Fighting Irish football fan, and of course, fencing as well. And he'll be moving back to his beloved South Bend. Most importantly, he's a husband and a father. Christine, good to see you again. Nick, wish him the best. Luke and Paul, on behalf of the Department of War, thank you. I don't think I fully understand the sacrifices that military families make I don't think any of us really do, especially across the span of a career like this. And yours, of course, is a great example of that. Christine, as your husband served often on long deployments in faraway oceans, you served our nation back home, raising your boys and keeping the watch. And Nick and Luke and Paul, it's not an easy life. Can't imagine to be the son of an admiral. But I can see in the way he looked at you and the way you interact that you've made your father proud. And Admiral Grady, thank you for your 42 years of dedicated service to the Navy and to the nation. And I see the way your sons and your wife look back at you. There's a lot of careers that might end in, are we done yet? We just get this over. And then there are those that end in love, in gratitude, in admiration, in even deeper affinity from those you think you know, and then you get to the end and you realize just how deep and special it is. I see that in you, and I see that in your family. By the way, you've got my number. Call me if I ever need a course correction. And I know you will. Just don't send it over Signal. Too soon? May God bless you and your family as you embark on this new and very well-deserved chapter in your life. So, Admiral Grady, Mrs. Grady, please join me for the award presentation.
The Secretary of War has awarded the Department of War Medal for Distinguished Public Service to Mrs. Christine Grady. Mrs. Christine Grady is recognized for distinguished public service in support of the members of the United States Armed Forces from December 2021 to September 2025. Mrs. Grady served as a model ambassador at numerous local and international events, hosting foreign dignitaries, foreign military vice chiefs of staff, and defense attachés. Traveling extensively across the country and abroad, she conducted countless meetings with service members and their families and advocated for advancing quality of life issues. Through Mrs. Grady's participation in multiple international and national public and private sector events, she enhanced the image of the Department of War. Additionally, she served as an ardent supporter of the Defense Commissary Agency, Armed Services YMCA, Fisher House, and United Services Organization. Mrs. Grady's exceptional example and selfless dedication to the military families reflected her total devotion and unconditional commitment to the values that are cherished within the military community. The distinctive accomplishments of Mrs. Grady reflect great credit upon herself and the Department of War. Signed, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War. The Secretary of War has awarded the Department of War Distinguished Service Medal to Admiral Christopher W. Grady. Admiral Christopher W. Grady, United States Navy, distinguished himself by exceptionally meritorious service in a duty of great responsibility as Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff from December 2023 to September 2025. During this period, Admiral Grady's extraordinary leadership, strategic vision, and unwavering dedication to national security significantly enhanced joint warfighting capabilities and strengthened America's position on the global stage during a period of strategic competition. As the nation's second highest-ranking military officer, Admiral Grady provided exceptional counsel to the Secretary of War, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and senior civilian leadership on critical matters of national defense. His comprehensive understanding of multi-domain operations and great power competition proved instrumental in developing innovative strategies to address evolving threats from near-peer adversaries. Admiral Grady's leadership was pivotal in advancing joint force modernization initiatives, ensuring the United States military maintained its technological and operational advantage across all domains of warfare. Admiral Grady expertly managed the Joint Requirements Oversight Council, driving transformational capability development that positioned the joint force for future conflicts. His strategic oversight of force structure assessments and capability gap analyses directly contributed to enhanced military readiness and lethality. The distinctive accomplishments of Admiral Grady culminated a long and distinguished career in the service of his country and reflect great credit upon himself, the United States Navy, and the Department of War. Signed, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War.
We all moved to South Bend way back in '95. Daddy said to live your life while you're still alive. Felt like an old friend from the moment we arrived. We had a dream, they had a team. It didn't take us long to venture to that sacred ground. 80,000 people louder than the speed of sound. Those fighting Irish warriors ran on to the battleground. They had a name, Notre Dame. Glory on, glory on, glory on for Notre Dame. Lay it all out on the line for the winning of the game. Glory on, to be there when the fighting Irish came. Today we
Ladies and gentlemen, the sons of Admiral Grady, Luke, Nick, and Paul Grady.
Good afternoon. I'm Paul Grady, and for the last 29 years, I've had the honor of serving as the youngest son to Dad. I like to start by explaining a euphemism I employ whenever referring to Dad. I don't say my dad or father, and obviously not Chris. It's always just Dad. I've had this pointed out to me a few times, but only recently I've realized why I do this, even to the people whom he's never met. Dad is the man I look up to, the one that I admire most. Dad is the ultimate example of how to live, how to love, how to find a soulmate, and how to raise a family. Simply saying Dad makes me feel like whomever I'm talking to, you're always with me. I never say my dad when calling out for you, asking a question, or sending an email. Dad to me is reserved for when the times that we're together, and I'm lucky to have never felt, even during your many, many deployments, that we are always together. Dad, you have set the standard of the man we should all aim to be, and if I come even remotely close, I know that I will have lived a full life. To me, Dad is your name. It always has been, and there is no one else on earth who could claim that title. Dad, I want to thank you for the many gifts you've given me throughout my life. First, I want to thank you for your wisdom. When I graduated from the University of Texas, Dad told me two things. First, get ready to live 95% of your life on Microsoft Outlook. And it pains me how right he was. Second, Dad said, you may think that life gets easier. You may think that you work for a few years, you get promoted, start making a little more money and climbing the ladder, that things will get easier. It doesn't. It gets harder. As you climb and as you grow, you earn more responsibility, and with that becomes more difficulty. Learn to live with that stress. Let it guide you. Don't be a victim. There will be good days, there will be bad days. Find the balance between the two, and if you're lucky, there will be more good than bad. I think about that often, how salient it is to work hard, keep pushing forward, and always improve yourself. Dad, I don't know if you know this, but I live my life by one of your quotes. In 2014, Dad embarked at his final at-sea deployment. He was in command of Carrier Strike Group 1 aboard the USS Carl Vinson CVN-70. In October of that year, CSG-1 arrived in 5th Fleet's waters to support the ongoing campaign against ISIS and ISIL. Upon entering into 5th Fleet, Dad quoted, "We are ready on arrival to execute the tasking of our leadership." That quote struck me the first time I read it, and 11 years later, ready on arrival is still my life's motto. Ready on arrival. It's rather self-explanatory, but its power and its wisdom are in its simplicity. I think about that quote every day of my life, to be prepared for every situation, to do the work when no one is looking, to be ready on arrival no matter what scenario I find myself in. It has guided me my whole career and will continue to lead me whenever I need to keep pushing forward. To quote the great Lou Holtz, "No one has ever drowned in sweat." Dad, your wisdom has guided hundreds of thousands of people. Just look out around you right now. Everyone in this audience today is a better person because of your leadership and your wisdom. The next gift I want to thank you for is the gift of family. And any retirement speech for Dad without mentioning Mom would be an incomplete speech. Mom, you have given your life to your family. You have given your life to your husband, your children, and grandchild, and to your country. The work you have done to support Dad and us and America is immeasurable and incomparable. Mom and Dad, you have given me the greatest gift of all, a family. I strive to find the love you have for each other, and I can only hope that one day I'll be able to find it and raise my children as you have raised us. Finally, I want to thank you for the gift of life, for there is no me without you. I simply would not be the man I am today without you. You are the example that I need. You are the person I want to be, the reason I am here. Thank you. Thank you, Dad, for all of the gifts you've given me in my life. I cherish them every day as they remind me to always live fully. For Admiral Chester W. Nimitz once said, to give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. In closing, I want to quote an excerpt from Tennyson's Ulysses. Though much is taken, much abides, and though we are not now that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are, we are. One equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, to yield. To me, that excerpt means to yearn to live, to enjoy every moment and romanticize your life, to know that the person you are now is because of the person you always were and the choices that you made along the way. To know that with every end, there is a new beginning, to not be afraid of the next chapter. Dad, after 41 years of exceptional service, you have given your life to your branch, to your country, and to your family. You have bettered the world with your wisdom. You were ready on arrival. You have raised a family with such a love that will be felt for generations to come. Dad, thank you for everything. Your wisdom, advice, and love have set the ultimate example. And I hope that you know that for every day in this new chapter, you will wake up the echoes, and we, and I will be cheering your name. And for the first two to be cheering your name, I believe we have a special video.
Chris, to us, you always be Chris Grady, fencer, team captain, team leader, fencing alum, fencing dad, and friend to all of us here at Notre Dame Fencing. We're so looking forward to seeing you more often in coming months after you retire. Happy retirement. We love you here. Take care.
Admiral Grady, I wanted to wish you a very special congratulations on your retirement. Thanks for all your love and your support. You and Christine, the wisdom you've shared, probably most importantly, the times you've reached out during tough times, right? Everybody can reach out when things are good, but the wisdom, the time you've shared with me after some of those tough losses means more than anything. And so thanks for all you've done for our country, for our school, and for me personally. And congratulations again. Enjoy retirement. It's much deserved. And I hope you and Christine enjoy some valuable time together. Go Irish. Go Navy when not playing Notre Dame. And fair winds and following seas.
Well, hello. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. But before I get started, Paul, you absolutely crushed that. I'm supposed to follow that? Quick little mention for my older brother, Nick. He gives his love and support to my parents, and he says he's so happy and so humbled to be your son. That's what I'd like to start with. For those of you that don't know, my name is Lucanus Grady. Everybody calls me Luke because that name is kind of a disaster, which I don't understand why I was named it. But regardless, I'm the middle of the three boys. I've been alive now for 32 years, and if your math is adding up, that is correct. I am 10 years shy of the entire time that my dad has been serving in the United States military. I'd like to start today with something that I think is very, very rare. Often in our lives, we are consistently being celebrated by our parents. We very rarely get the opportunity to say thank you and to really put them into the spotlight. Maybe things like job promotions, anniversaries, or retirements like this, or graduations, as General Kane would say. So it's a privilege for Nick, Paul, and I to be able to give you some words as we celebrate today. Like Paul, I'm often asked by acquaintances, colleagues, friends, what it was like growing up the son of an admiral. For some reason, they're portrayed with this stigma of being incredibly stern, strict, authoritative, and controlling. Well, to those of you that know, and I'm happy to say that the majority of people in this audience do, my father does not embody any of those qualities. He's empathetic, compassionate, humble, and overwhelmingly supportive. He's carried those traits into his leadership role throughout his various positions that he held in the Navy, and now as the 12th Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. All that worked for him know this, and they also know that he's got a pretty quirky sense of humor. A film and television aficionado, so much so that my younger brother Paul got a degree in film and television. He often asks his colleagues or says movie quotes directly to their faces. And he says, "What's that from?" And he waits. And he waits, and he waits. And if the response is incorrect, which unfortunately for them, 95% of the time it is, he says, with disdain, "Look it up. I blame your parents." Those quips are wonderful because it set a precedent, it set a culture, because there's such a real mission to what my father did. An unwavering support for the United States and a commitment to its protection and security. Dad loved his job. And I think job is probably the wrong word. It is Dad's vocation. And he loved it because he was completely fulfilled in service to his country. Money, stock options, benefits, that meant nothing. It was service to something greater than himself. If there are three things that my father loves, I think we've heard this one before: Notre Dame, go Irish, I'm also an alum. He loves his family, and he loves his country. He taught my brothers and I so many valuable lessons, and I think a lot of you might have heard these before. Have a plan. Be quick and decisive to act. Always be honest. Think 2 levels above where you are now. Trust your gut. Train your bench. If you follow some of these principles, it is impossible to fail. He and my mother did an amazing job instilling all of those values in us. But also they taught us the ultimate lesson, the one that you hear so often but is so unbelievably true, that freedom is truly not free. Now, if you talk about my father, and you talk about, as Paul calls him, Dad, you have to talk about the other side of the coin. And that's our mother, Christine. You deserve to be celebrated and recognized as much as everybody else in this room. For 42 years, please. For 42 years, you have been a constant source of strength, the heart of our military family, grace, and unwavering love. As a devoted mother of 3, you never missed a game, a recital, or a moment when we needed her. Through every move, deployment, and sacrifice, you stood by my father with unshakable support, not just as a spouse, but as a pillar of resilience. Beyond our family, you are a fierce and devout activist for many of the initiatives that are affecting military spouses. You work tirelessly to build networks and champion things that made better life for others in the military and beyond. Mom, your quiet courage and selflessness, endless compassion has shaped who we are and left a legacy for the Grady home. You're the glue that held everything together, and not the man behind the uniform, rather the person standing right next to him side by side. Nick, Paul, and I are forever grateful for everything you did. We're inspired by your love, so thank you very much. I'm proud of very few things in my life. I like to think that I got the humble gene from my father, even though I'm the tallest and best looking of the Grady brothers. But all of the things I'm immensely proud of revolve around my family. My nephew Nolan, who is consistently putting Nick, Paul, and I to shame as the best Grady member. My sister-in-law Danielle, whose unbelievable intelligence is only second to how amazing she is as a mom to Nolan. And then my two brothers, Nick and Paul, who are lucky, I'm lucky enough to be standing up here with them today. They are the two best men of their respective generations. And what Nick and Paul represent is exactly what my parents have consistently taught. When I need to be lifted up or a reminder of what is the greatest thing in life, I look to them. But above all of those, above everything that I have talked about today of what I'm proud of, I'm proud of the fact that my last name is Grady and that I was born to Chris and Christine. Mom, Dad, everyone in this room, and I don't think it's an exaggeration to say this, everybody in the country has been affected by your selflessness, your wisdom, and your dedication to service. 42 years of a career dedicated to something greater than yourself, to the United States of America, to world security. I look forward to your retirement, the next chapter of your lives, experiencing all the wonderful things in store for you. I am the proudest I can ever be to be your son. It's now my honor to introduce my older brother, Nick Grady, for our closing remarks.
Thanks, Luke. Hello, everyone. Secretary Hegseth, General Kane, admirals, generals, family, and friends. It's fantastic to be here. I did, in fact, just come from the hospital. I'm doing great. And I was rushed on stage to give this speech. I didn't think I was going to make it, but I'm really happy that I did. I thought a lot about how to do this, about how to encapsulate what I would think to be something that's difficult to do. 42 years of a career, a partnership with my mom and my dad that you have to consolidate into about 5 minutes. But I thought that I'd make it a little personal. I've always been fascinated with how seemingly random experiences become cemented into our memories. Time and distance don't matter. When we recall them in our minds, we are right there, living them again in stunning detail. I think Hollywood calls this a core memory. Is that right? One of my first core memories was nearly 30 years ago at a crappy motel in Roseland, Indiana. Don't worry, I'll get to why. I was attending a Notre Dame baseball camp with my dad, and I was nervous. While I was just a junior camp, it might as well have been the World Series for me. It was the first time I could remember seeing the Golden Dome in person and feeling what it was like to be on that special campus. I knew right then that that was where I wanted to go. But that's not my core memory. This camp was also where I learned about the Denny's Grand Slam breakfast. 2 eggs, bacon, sausage, hash browns, toast, and a short stack of pancakes and a coffee for only $4.99. Even in the mid-90s, that was a good deal. You can't afford not to save. Again, not my core memory. After day 1 of the camp, we headed back to the hotel and stopped to grab a drink from the vending machine. My dad saw that they had something called Orangina, which surprised him because this was usually a beverage more commonly found overseas. He asked if I wanted one too, and I said, of course, I'll take it. I never tried it before. So my dad put in a quarter, and out came 2 Oranginas from the machine. My dad exclaimed, "We lucked out." And we stood there cheering and high-fiving. This wasn't anything particularly extraordinary, but that is the first time that I learned that phrase, and it is stuck in my head like it was yesterday. It didn't involve a special gift or an exotic location, a crazy experience where you just had to be there. But as I reflect on why, after nearly 30 years, I can still remember every detail of that moment. Perhaps I don't need to overcomplicate it. Perhaps it was just a kid sharing a moment with his dad that was completely theirs. Perhaps it was me, knowing that in a few weeks he would be leaving again for a long time. And perhaps I knew that I was going to absorb every second of that with my dad before he was gone. And as I think about it now, it doesn't seem that random at all. That's the life of a military family. It's a number of tearful goodbyes and joyous reunions. And as I look back on the times that we've spent doing those things. It gives me great pride to know that you always put us first. You and Mom always did whatever you could to make those tearful goodbyes as bearable as they could be, and those heartfelt reunions as wonderful as they should be. Thank you.
It's Nick, Paul, and I's great pleasure to introduce the 12th Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, our father, Admiral Christopher W. Grady.
Big boy voice for this part, Mr. Secretary, to review the bill for just a moment. This is the audience participation part, right? But before I start, a lot of Notre Dame in this ceremony. I'm going to tell you why. God doesn't care who wins, but his mother does. And you know, if you reflect on 42 years, and I'll get to podium here for my official remarks, which I worked really hard on. What you just heard right there is why we do this job. Now, Mr. Secretary, that's why we do it, to protect our families and set them up for life and success in the future. So here's the audience participation part. I'm going to call out some folks and groups of folks. You need to cheer really loudly for us, just so we know you're there. The Secretary or the Chairman have mentioned many of you already. The first one is the OG, and that's my sister Debbie, representing my entire family. There's my loyal wingman right there. The Joint Staff, where's the Joint Staff? You heard a lot about the military service organizations and the veteran service organizations. We've got a bunch of MSOs and BSOs here. Where are you?
This is for the broadcast. Thanks for all you do for the center of the universe, our soldiers and sailors and airmen and Marines and Guardians and Coast Guardsmen. All right, like I said, there's a huge Notre Dame contingent here. Let's hear it from ND. And maybe the greatest team that I have ever served on, my fellow Joint Chiefs, former chairman, former vice chairman. I want to hear from you, loud and proud, please. Now, come on now. Thanks. The entire flag officer, general officer wardroom, you're all here. Let's hear it. And of course, our allies and partners, whether they're our allies and partners in uniform or academia or industry, please, let's hear from you too. We can't do it without you. And one last thing before I get into my prepared remarks. You've heard that I am the old salt. Surface warfare qualified in January 1986. So today, I turn over the old salt trophy, and I would like, Admiral Jim Kilby to come down here right now. This is my very great friend. There is no better person to turn the Old Salt Award over to than Jim Kilby, one of the greatest mariners I know, one of the greatest leaders and executives I know, who did it in challenging times and continues to do it. And we've grown up together, and I could not think of anyone better to turn it over to you than to you, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
No, just the old salt. You guys can wave it away. Thank you. Grab this. Secretary Hegseth, Deputy Secretary Feinberg, Chairman Kane, current and former Joint Chiefs, fellow vices, combatant commanders, distinguished guests, members of the Flag Wardroom, fellow war fighters, family and friends, thank you for being here today. And I must say that as I look out on this special gathering and see so many familiar faces, I am filled with a sense of deep pride and gratitude and humility. So thanks again for being here. Now, before I go any further, I want to take a moment to recognize the team that put this incredible event together. From the protocol office and culinary teams, to the vice squad, to the bands, to the side boys and the ceremonial guards, thank you for your hard work, your professionalism, and your commitment to excellence. And to the crew from Old Ironsides, the USS Constitution, and the Fife and Drum Corps of the Old Guard, they keep us connected to our proud heritage. So special that you participate in these ceremonies. And of course, to Father Bob and Father John, it means the world to me that you would fly here to participate in this ceremony. So how about a round of applause for everybody who made this ceremony so special? So as I reflect on my 41-year journey of service to this great nation, many things have changed over the years, but I am most struck by the things that have remained constant. Immutable attributes of life of service and of leadership and of toughness and of sacrifice. Things like the importance of continuous learning, the value of people and relationships, the imperative of staying true to one's foundational principles and values, and the necessity to have your sea bag packed. You see, the world that we live in is congested, it is contested, it is complex, and it is imperfect. It is a world where the landscape of global competition is ever-changing, where tyrants are emboldened to insert themselves on the international stage, and where we witness unrelenting challenges to security, stability, and sovereignty. A world where autocracies are real, naked aggression is real, and sadly, war is real. Thus, we must continue to move out with a sense of urgency, expecting the unexpected and sometimes imposing the unexpected. Our nation's call may come at but a moment's notice, requiring us to be underway within hours. We must consider every day as the last day of peace, as if tomorrow were December 8th or September 12th. Whether chasing Soviet subs in the Atlantic in the beginning of my career or navigating the complex security landscape of this return to great power competition that we live in today, I always had to have my sea bag packed. And in today's world, we all must continue to have our sea bags packed, to always be resolute, ready, and lethal on arrival.
So today, I want to talk about my sea bag. Every sailor has one. It is regulation, it is olive green, it is simple, it is often heavy, but it is much more than just canvas and straps. It is a symbol of our profession of arms, a reminder of our responsibilities, and a reflection of our character. As a young officer, I packed my own sea bag with essentials that I thought that I needed. It was very much focused on me. It was full of more than just gear. It was full of who I was becoming. Each item stuffed into the bag said something about the stage that I was in, what I needed, what I did not know, what I hoped I would become. I packed manuals and technical pubs because I did not know anything yet. I was still learning the language, the systems, and the acronyms. Those books and pubs were not just instructions. They truly were my first mentors. I packed the perfect shave kit, pressed uniforms, and shoe polish because I was laser focused on looking squared away in front of my sailors. I owed that to them. And yet I was still learning that discipline was about more than just inspections. It was about consistency and reliability and preparation. I packed brand new boots that I had never seen salt water. I was ready to go anywhere, even if I did not know what anywhere looked like. I packed wheel books, not because I had answers, but because I had so many questions. And I packed a lot of what my dad taught me, a destroyer captain himself. Priceless. And I also packed extra stationery so I could write letters to Christine and Nick and Luke and Paul, without whom I am nothing. That first sea bag I packed said a lot about who I was. Young, eager, unsure, and as we say in the Navy, standing by. Now, as I grew in experience and responsibility, my sea bag began to change. Over time, I learned what was truly essential. Some things stayed in the bag, and some things I tossed. I began to grow from an apprentice sailor to a seasoned leader with a bag packed by experience and by others, many of whom are here today, who invested in me. And the bag started to get heavier. Not with gear, but with responsibility. It was no longer just carrying what I needed. Now I was carrying expectations and missions and the weight of leading others. So I swapped out old gear for new gear. I replaced analog with digital. I switched from paper trails to email threads, lost count of how many pairs of boots I went through. But the lessons learned along the way stayed packed. Lessons about leading with empathy, owning my mistakes, and staying calm in chaos. I also stopped overpacking. Early on, I packed everything because I was afraid of not being ready. But over time, I learned what to leave behind: ego, insecurity, needing to be right all the time. And I made space for what mattered more: people and principles and purpose. And other people started adding stuff to my sea bag. Mentors who gave me the tools that I did not even know I needed. Mentors like Commodore Toby Spar, my first CO. He's here today. Captain, thank you for being here. It is from him I learned that being excellent in all we do, and mark my words, he meant everything, can still be so much fun. And I am confident that the Soviets in the Black Sea in 1986
Learned this from him as well. This is truly a great sea story, and I look forward to telling it to you later. And Vice Admiral Cutler Dawson, also here today, who taught me everything about command. In the wardroom and to the wardroom of the cruiser Princeton, especially my fellow department heads, a few of whom are here today, he was and is the living incarnation of command at sea, the defining ethos of what makes the United States Navy the greatest ever. And of course, C&O Roughhead. He taught all of us about how to lead as both a warfighter and an executive, and how being disciplined and principled and visionary can lead to incredibly impactful outcomes. Shipmates added things. Checklists and shortcuts and hard-earned wisdom, they put all of that into my sea bag. And sometimes they loaned me something from their bag when I was running low. Things like patience and perspective, or maybe just a joke at the right time. Every sea bag needs peer mentorship. Our friends and our family make us who we are. Now, besides Christine, she is everything. There are just a few folks who saved me from myself. And I bet they don't even know the impact that they had on me. Guys like Bill and Nick Coogan, Mike Brennan, and Tim Higgins, my Middletown high school mates. I'm here to tell you I would not be here without them. We all served in uniform around the world, 3 squids, a Zoomy, a devil dog. But when we get together, and they're here today, we are just 5 Irishmen from Aquidneck Island. I am blessed that they joined me. Same for my Notre Dame friends also here today, Joe and Kathleen Bauman, John Langdon, and Carl Dahlhauser. When you go to a place like Notre Dame, it is incredibly humbling. Everyone is the best of the best. And if you struggle early, like I did, it can go downhill fast. They were always there helping, encouraging, or simply just pushing. And to me, and to this day, finding these 4 people has always been proof of Our Lady's grace. And my great friend John Simpson, probably the best ship handler I have ever seen, and an even better person. We were running mates on my first ship with Captain Spar. John pushed me too. In every way, I think we made each other better, so John, thank you for being here. And of course, sailors reminded me why I packed my bag in the first place. Occasionally, they added some items of their own, like questions and challenges, and not a few answers. Most of them better than mine. Sailors like Command Senior Chief Larry Walker in USS Ardent and USS Chief, Command Master Chief Joe Langholtz in USS Cole, Culinary Master Chief Eric Johnson, and Fleet Master Chief Kinetic Rick O'Raw, who I believe is here too. All of these incredible sailors and leaders made me a better officer and taught me the value of mastering one's craft, which is what we expect of every sailor. And this is what up to us as officers, to give our sailors and soldiers and airmen and Marines and Guardians and Coast Guard everything that they need to fight and win. As I said before, they are the center of the universe. And of course, my growing family started to add more and more contents to my sea bag, throwing in family photos or letters, one too many term papers and problem sheets to check, prayers and late-night phone calls, but most of all, incredible grace when I missed birthdays or lacrosse games or baseball games or track meets, or I could not even explain where I was. I always say that a stronger family means a stronger force, and my family is no exception. Their sacrifice, that of Christine and Nick and Luke and Paul, infused every inch of my sea bag. So instead of saying a lot about who I was, my sea bag came to reflect more and more of those around me. I started off packing my sea bag alone, but it began to bear the fingerprints of those who walked alongside of me. And at some point in my career, the purpose of my sea bag shifted. I stopped packing it just for me, and I started opening it up and handing things out. And I'm not talking about delegating or lightening my own load. I'm talking about trying to be a good parent, shown the way by Christine, so that I could see Nick, Luke, and Paul become the great men they are. I'm so proud of them. I'm talking about the critical skill of mentoring and teaching to equip the next generation of sailors and leaders. And I'm talking about the fact that leadership is not about carrying the load, it's about preparing others to carry theirs. I passed down my manuals to younger officers eager to learn. I would highlight pages and share notes, yes, all in orange ink, and walk them through the why behind the what. Like me, they did not always know the right questions to ask. But I remembered that I had been in their position at one time. I loaned out my tools so that others could fix broken systems and broken mindsets and broken teams. I helped them break in their new boots by walking with them, pushing them to walk further than they ever thought that they could. And sometimes I just took a mirror out of my bag, held it up for them to give perspective, to help them see themselves clearly and honestly, and with the belief that they were more capable than they even knew. As I look at that old salt trophy there, perhaps this is the most rewarding part of being an old mariner, of being the old salt, giving out the contents of your sea bag. I've also gone through all of my stationery, written my last long-distance note to Christine, and I never wrote enough, Chrissy, I'm sorry. And I've given away my last piece of paper to a department head so that he could write an anniversary note to his bride. As I watch with pride and optimism young sailors grow into seasoned combat leaders, my sea bag begins to feel quite light. And I realize I did not give away anything I had. I simply passed on what you all gave to me. I did not deplete my sea bag by sharing it. I enriched it with experiences and memories and deep and meaningful relationships and great advice from so many. Though the contents and purpose of my sea bag changed over time, one thing never changed: my rain gear. I always use my rain gear to line the inside of my sea bag as a shield to protect everything else. Though you cannot see it from the outside, it was always there, keeping my things dry. And in my mind, my rain gear represents my moral foundations, my principles, and the love of my family. The fabric was woven by my values. It was stitched together by my parents and my sister. It was cut to size and pressed at Notre Dame and fitted and maintained over time by Christine. Through every deployment, every PCS, every late night watch or hard decision, it was those core values that kept the rest of me from getting soaked. When the storm came, and they always come, it was that inner liner that held. It was always there through the years, both afloat and ashore. Now, I am forged by the sea. After 42 years, I have carried this sea bag a long way, across oceans and seas, across ranks, through change, challenge, triumph, and failure. It has always been my constant companion, packed and repacked for every duty station, every deployment, every season of life. Going forward, my sea bag will change once again. And as I prepare to retire, I'm not setting it down. I'm just packing it a bit differently. I will trade the uniforms for civilian clothes, boots for sneakers, watch logs for more sleep, letters and emails for time with loved ones, especially Christine.
I will keep the pride that comes with carrying the humble sea bag. And I will keep the lessons and relationships and memories. And I will keep the passion for serving something that is greater than myself. And I will keep sharing the contents of my sea bag with others. And I will keep that sense of urgency. I will always be ready. Not for deployments, but for holidays with families. Not for NSC meetings and DMAGs, but for birthdays and anniversaries. Not to man the watch, but to watch my grandchildren grow up and hopefully spoil them along the way. I'm looking at Nolan over there. And not for office calls and briefings, but for phone calls or coffee from all of my shipmates, anywhere. Because my morals and my principles and my values and my family, they are not going anywhere, and I will keep my rain gear to protect all of them. In the end, this sea bag, this humble sea bag, is not just a piece of equipment. It is a symbol of our shared values, our common purpose, and our commitment to one another. As I pass the torch to the next generation of leaders, I have the faith that they will carry on the traditions of service and of sacrifice and of toughness and of lethality. I know, Mr. Secretary, we will win. So my sea bag is packed, and it is still full, and I am still ready, just for something a little different. So keep your sea bag packed, always keep your cutlass sharp, and thank you for being here. I will now read my orders. C&O Order 1275, retirement orders for Admiral Christopher W. Grady, United States Navy. Your request to be transferred to the retired list has been approved by the Secretary of War, effective 1 November 2025. You will be transferred to the retired list in the grade of Admiral pursuant to provisions of Title 10 U.S.C. 1370 and 8321. Detach in September 25 from duty as Vice Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff, Joint Staff. Signed, J.W. Kilby, Admiral, United States Navy, Acting Chief of Naval Operations. Hold down my flag.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now present the reading of Old Glory. I am the flag of the United States of America. My name is Old Glory. I fly atop the world's tallest buildings. I stand watch in America's halls of justice. I fly majestically over great institutions of learning. I stand guard with the greatest military power in the world. Look up and see me. I stand for peace, honor, truth, and justice. I stand for freedom. I am confident. I am arrogant. I am proud. When I am flown with my fellow banners, my head is a little higher. My colors are a little truer. I bow to no one. I am recognized all over the world. I am worshipped. I am saluted. I am respected. I am revered. I am loved. And I am feared. For more than 200 years, I have fought in every battle of every war. Gettysburg, Shiloh, Appomattox, San Juan Hill, the trenches of France, the Argonne Forest, Anzio, Midway, Rome, the beaches of Normandy, the jungles of Guam, Okinawa, Tarawa, Korea, Vietnam, in the heat of the Persian Gulf and a score of other places. Long forgotten by all but those who were there with me. I was there. I led my soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Guardians, and Coast Guardsmen. I followed them. I watch over them. They love me. I was on a small hill on Iwo Jima. I was dirty, battle-torn, and tired. But my soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Guardians, and Coast Guardsmen cheered me. And I was proud. I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of countries that I have helped to set free. It does not hurt, for I am invincible. I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of my own country, and when it is done by those with whom I have served in battle, it hurts. But I shall overcome, for I am strong. I have slipped the surely bounds of earth, and from my vantage point on the moon, I stand watch over the new frontiers of space. I have been the silent witness to all of America's finest hours. But my finest hour comes when I am torn into strips to be used as bandages for my wounded comrades on the field of battle. When I fly half-mast to honor my soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Guardians, and Coast Guardsmen. And when I lie in the trembling arms of a grieving mother at the gravesite of her fallen son or daughter, I am proud. My name is Old Glory. Long may I wave, dear God, long may I wave. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Braylon Cathy, Deputy Executive Assistant to Admiral Grady, will now recite the watch.
For 41 years, this sailor has stood the watch. While some of us were in our bunks at night, this sailor stood the watch. While some of us were in school learning our trade, this shipmate stood the watch. In those years when the storm clouds of war were brewing over the history of our country, this shipmate stood the watch. He stood the watch on USS Mooseburger. He stood the watch on USS Princeton. He stood the watch on USS Ardent and USS Chief. He stood the watch on USS Cole. He stood the watch on USS Theodore Roosevelt, USS Carl Vinson, and USS Mount Whitney. Many times he would cast an eye ashore and see his family standing there, needing his help and his guidance. Nick, Paul, and Luke, he knew that your mother Christine was there with her helping hand to nurture, to support, to do everything that was needed for the family. And for this reason, he stood the watch. He stood the watch through Operations Active Endeavor, Desert Fox, Allied Force, Enduring Freedom, and Inherent Resolve. He stood the watch as commander of Destroyer Squadron 22, as commander of Carrier Strike Group 1, as commander of Naval Surface Forces Atlantic, as commander of NATO Striking Forces and U.S. 6th Fleet, as commander of U.S. Fleet Forces Command, and as our 12th Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He stood the watch for 41 years. He stood the watch so that we, our families, and our loved ones, our fellow countrymen, could sleep soundly at night. He stood the watch. Today, we are here to say, Admiral, your watch stands relieved. Relieved by those you have guided, relieved by those you have trained, even relieved by ensigns who conspired to steal your Notre Dame helmet. Admiral, you stand relieved. We have the watch, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we would like to recognize all members of the military community and their families who have joined us today. When you hear your service song or that of a loved one who has served, we invite you to stand and be recognized. The United States Army. The United States Air Force. United States Space Force. The United States Marine Corps. The United States Coast Guard. The United States Navy. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the benediction by Reverend Dowd and remain standing for piping ashore.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we pray for blessings on Admiral Christopher Grady, his wife Christine, and the entire Grady family. In a special way, be with Admiral Grady and Christine as they begin a new chapter in their lives. May they always experience your loving presence at every turn. As you open new doors of service to them, continue to bless them with open hearts. And as we prepare to go our separate ways, bless us all with insight to recognize your presence and action in our midst. May we recognize and respect the inherent dignity of every person. Help us to be agents of hope wherever there is despair. Help us to use our many and varied gifts to serve others. Help us to grow in wisdom and understanding, compassion and courage, and in faith, hope, and love. We make this prayer through the intercession of Our Lady and in the name of Christ the Lord. Amen.
Post the side boys. Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral Christopher Grady, will now request permission of the Secretary of War, the Honorable Pete Hegseth, to go ashore one final time. Admiral, United States Navy, retired, departing. Navy family retired, departing. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. We ask that all guests please remain in place until the official party has departed, at which point ushers will guide you to the receiving line and follow on reception. Thank you for your attendance.